deepen our value chains so that among ourselves, we should be transacting. You produce a part A, part B, something like that, then it will boost our industries as well. Trade facilitation. Trade facilitation is where when you want to export something, let's say today or tomorrow, then tomorrow things should be moving, or within 2 days should be moving. And it should move fast. Very soon it should be at the destination. But this is not the case right now. It's very difficult for us to move goods from one country to the other within Africa. For example, even traveling, if you want to go, let's say Liberia, should you start tomorrow? When are you going to arrive there? If you as a person, you can take long, what about goods? So these are the things which we need to improve, trade facilitation. So there's need to improve infrastructure, but also there's need to harmonize documentation and also to streamline documentation, to make also fewer documents when you're doing this kind of trade. Yeah, and even having online systems rather than physical kind of documentation. And then the cooperation within the government agencies, like when you are doing business with one country to the other, government agencies are always involved. So if they are able to communicate smoothly, then also it's good for everyone. Even if the private sector will not have much problems to move their goods or to provide their services, something like that, because there will be an understanding. There will be no kind of resistance. And then there's the national strategies, like the FCTA has already supported Malawi to come up with a national strategy on how to prepare for this Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And I wish you, one of these days, we also try to unpack this strategy so that you should be conversant with it, but also its implementation plan. And then there's also simplifying payment system. You know, payment today, fiat currency, moving money from one place to the other, it's difficult to make business. Sometimes you can pay online. Like Malawi, like most of the African countries, we like now mobile money, isn't it? What if it's possible for you to pay using mobile money in Morocco or Nigeria or Ethiopia? You can really increase this intra-Africa trade. So payment systems are another thing. Like now we have got PAPS, which is a Pan-African payment system, which is the Exim Bank, African Exim Bank, which is based in Egypt. As actually, there's a lot happening. I think one day we'll also unpack this one. Can you move to the next slide? Of course, I just want to say in brief some negatives, not to scare you, but that is what we should know. When the trade is liberalized, we should expect also increased competition. What that call for us to also to improve our game, okay? To up our game. Because better things will also come our direction. So we should prepare also to make much more better things, to compete with those better things which will be coming our direction. So that is why we say competition also increases. As you go to other countries will also come to you. Okay? Now, the other thing is higher adjustment costs, particularly to the side of government, because when these things are happening, also things also have to be adjusted. Okay, some of these things you see, taxes, they're also getting a bit higher, and sometimes to compensate for tariffs that were removed on goods. And if you have got a small number of people who are paying taxes, it is much harder even. But also these development costs now for government to provide public services to you is also difficult. So you have to, everyone has to adjust. As businesses are adjusting, also governments have to adjust likewise. And then there's a reduced government revenue, which you're talking about, lesser and lesser revenue will be coming our way. I mean, our governments will also have. But the good thing is in trade, there's what we call variable geometry, whereby if you are not yet ready, you ask for a time to get ready. You see what I mean? To overcome such kind of challenges, to get yourself ready. Yeah, so those are built in our agreements that that are being negotiated under the FCTA agreement. Next. Okay, how can you now position for investment? Now, let me also explain why I've said this one. There are two ways when you're in business that you should expect. One, your business could be all right in terms of you have got enough capital, you have got a nice team already. What you are looking for is a market, okay? But sometimes you see, the reverse. You have got an idea, like MHub, I know they support a lot of innovators. Bright ideas, bright products to solve or to, that you have got potential. But the question is, you don't have enough capital. You have got challenges. You don't have the right team to drive your ideas or to launch your products. So then you look for investors. Here, you ask yourself, okay, who is an investor? An investor can come in various forms or types that can join your business, either as shareholders or just venture capitalists, or they just loan. There's so many ways you can get that funding your direction. There's crowdfunding, angel investors. So you should know who are they also. Who are they? What? And you should know what are they looking for. Okay, and you should also know their particular areas of interest so that you can pitch nicely to bring them into your business. And also, you should know where you can meet them to make your pitch deck. Where are you going to meet them? So ask questions on that area so that you should really know what you want when it is coming to looking for investors and positioning yourself for such kind of investors. Next. Now, if you're okay, you don't really look for, let's say, for example, you don't look for investors, or you are looking for them, but you are now looking for where you can get them. Normally, you can find them during trade fair. It could be, an investor can be even from Malawi. Let's not say that investors will come from other countries in Africa. They can come from there, but others are within Malawi. So you can meet them either trade fair. There are also trade expos. There are also exhibitions. There are also specific events that you need to see or participate instead, so that you can actually make yourself present there. And this, when it is a trade fair or trade expos, like recently we had the Dubai Expo, there's oftentimes China Expo, Malawi International Trade Fair is coming in July, from I think 21st of July. Prepare how you can participate and meet who's you are looking for. So these are the other areas which you have to make your stand looking nice, attractive, natural, simple. Okay, make sure that it's lighting, like here, it's lighting. People come along that way when there's darkness, something like that. And then you should also find a way how you can speak to people, and how can you speak. Because when it comes to pitch deck, which I will speak in the next slide maybe, there are many ways you can pitch. Sometimes they say a 60-second pitch. You see, within 60 seconds, you speak to someone, make sure that you know what to speak. And within that, you leave lasting memories on that listener, especially if he either is a customer, some are back buyers, some are long-term contract buyers, or some are investors actually. And those, so many ways. So you have to get to know when someone comes your way. Just like that, I've said, some of these things you can also lead. Make sure that you have information, you look natural, you do understand your product, you understand your service, you know your business very well. Your business model is also clear. So when you're speaking, you make an impact. So those are the things. Of course, some people like giving freebies, like branded things of your product. Don't just give them too much. Those can come at last, just to make somebody have a lasting memory on you or to remember you thereafter. Next. Okay, let's say like this is just like a trade, it's simple, but look, but this is a container, but it's looking so nice. Is it? People can really visit you. Oh, what's here? Okay. Next. You see, people, the way they do it, so nice, simple, spacious. You can talk to them, there's space, they can admire things. Like you said last week, you had the ecosystem on the technology. This is a technology, they use technology to actually show their products speak. So these are the things that we're talking about. Next. Okay, successful pitch deck tips. I'll just tip you. There's a lot. There are many ways, because sometimes if you look at Facebook, the way Mark Zuckerberg pitched it, so interesting. But when you also look at the Airbnb guys, the way they pitch to get investors, it's so unique. You see? So these things can change But the core things, they don't really change. Like number one, because you can pitch in various formats. You can pitch like here, given maybe 5 minutes to speech. Okay, sometimes even 1 minute. Okay, like when I say you are talking with investors during trade fair, just 1 minute. Sometimes you may need to present a document, isn't it? You go to the prospective investor, you present a document, or prospective customer. So if it's a document, it should be well covered. Now the problem, if you like here, you deal with so many innovators, what are they trying to solve? So the problem statement should be so clear. Like Airbnb wanted to take away people from the hotel model. You see what I mean? So that people should just share with those people already homes that are there in that country. So that the problem was the hotel model was maybe not really solving everyone's problem. And then what solution are you trying to provide? And then market validation. Market validation, or sometimes you can say traction. Those things are the things which you should be very much compassionate with. And the market size, product, understand your product clearly, and business model, how are your business going to be conducted? Those should be very clear. And the market adoption, if you want investors to come in, you want actually to increase your product flow into the market. So those things should be very clear. And competition, you should have analyzed your competition clearly. And then the competitive advantage of your product or your service should be also very clear. And the team, who is behind driving this, this business. If the team looks capable, people will be interested. And then they will also look to, do people know you? So sometimes you can have newspaper clips. You cut, you share, look, here is already, people are already talking about us. And use the testimonials as well as the financials, because you'll be asking for money. So the financials is very important. Yeah. Next, and I think it's the last slide. If it's not the last, but it's close to the last. Okay, I think that's part one. Investor due diligence tips. Okay, here I've been involved in some consultancy work where sometimes you can meet the investor director, you can meet the investor directly, or sometimes they are using agents. Okay, so sometimes if they're coming from outside, even let's say that means they have to transfer money through into the country. That the central bank has to know about that money coming to the country. So, so many things. They can screen you. You can also screen them. You understand? Yeah. So screening due diligence is understanding. Is it really? Is it? It's just really something worth trusting? Is it? This is just a pre-assessment. Okay. Then business due diligence. They will look at your business if it's really a business worth investing in. Okay. They will look at your strategy, your business plan, your business model. They'll assess it. They'll do so many things. They'll ask you this and that. Whether you have got the nature of ownership, the type of business, whether it's registered, it's paying taxes, things like those. So sometimes there will be a lot on also business due diligence. Once you pass this stage, they will actually take you to legal due diligence. You find that you might have passed this stage and this stage, then you meet the lawyers also. Because people, when they're investing, they will also look at legal agreements, isn't it? So you should be ready to answer questions when their lawyers are also asking you, because you may pass through these stages, but they may not convince their lawyers, and they can also give up. So these are the things that you should be prepared for. Next, I think I've finished. I think it has been better. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Let's give another round of applause. With no further ado, of course, we'll have time for the questions, and they'll have time to answer and to respond to all your questions, including for the viewers that are watching us online, you guys that are physically here with us. But for now, allow me to welcome our second speaker. I will do a brief introduction for him, but then once he comes here as he's doing his presentation, you'll get to know him better. Our second speaker is Mr. Chimemwe Richard Mage, who is a trade policy and trade law expert and has more than 5 years of international trade experience. And he's now working for the GIZ Malawi. Prior to joining GIZ Malawi, he worked as a junior regional analyst for the political economy Southern Africa. In this capacity, he was responsible for conducting research related to trade, regional integration, and political developments within SADC. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Mr. Chimemwe Richard Mage. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first and foremost, maybe I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us. So on behalf of GIZ, especially the GIZ support program to the AFCFTA, please receive our thanks for inviting us to present what we are doing as a project, but also the potential benefits of the AFCFTA here in Malawi. So thank you. Maybe in the interest of time, let me go straight to my presentation. The next slide, please. Yes, so this is the outline of my presentation. I think we'll first look at a brief overview of our project, or program rather, and then we'll also look at the potential benefits of the AFCFTA, and then we'll look at how local entrepreneurs can benefit from the AFCFTA, and then maybe we can have a session of questions and answers. The next slide, please. Yes, so the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, this is our commissioning party. And then we do have our political partner, which is the Ministry of Trade. And also we have a number of implementing partners. I can mention of the Malawi Investment and Trade Center, MITC, the Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI, and also maybe MHub can also be one of our partners, because I believe these kind of sessions, they are really, they can actually aid into what we are trying to achieve here in Malawi. So maybe after the session, we can also have a one-on-one discussion on that. The total program budget for the program, as of now, it's 34.5 million euros. So from 2021 to 2024, but for Malawi, the total budget is 1 million euros. So the project's duration is from 2021 up to 2024. The next slide, please. Yeah, so what is our module objective? So the project's module objective is actually to ensure that the framework conditions for implementing the AFCFTA are strengthened. So here in Malawi, we're actually working with our main political partner, the Ministry of Trade, in ensuring that the framework conditions for the implementation of the AFCFTA here in Malawi are actually strengthened. So we have about 5 components. The first component is on strengthening the institutional structures for negotiation and implementation. So you will note that we have AUC, which is African Union Commission, plus Secretariat, which is the AFCFTA Secretariat in Ghana, plus then we have the national committees. But in Malawi, we don't have an AFCFTA national committee. But then when you look at the AFCFTA national strategy, it mentions that it recommends rather the PPDF, which is the Public-Private Dialogue Forum, to be the national AFCFTA committee in Malawi. So this is the first component where we are looking at strengthening the institutional structures for negotiation and implementation of the AFCFTA. Component 2 is on the support to the negotiations on trading services. So we are trying to support Malawi when it comes to the negotiations on trading services. So last year, we actually trained about 30 plus members of the negotiating team here in Malawi, plus also the experts at the Ministry of Trade. So this was one activity that we actually helped the ministry with. Plus also we helped them in the establishment of a technical working group on trading services. So this is component 2. Component 3, we are actually looking at supporting implementing the trading goods commitments and also the pending negotiations. So this component, we have actually had 2 activities here in Malawi. One was actually to sensitize the private sector. So with our partners, the Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, we actually sensitized about 150 private sector actors here in Malawi. So this was one activity in this component, but also we trained about 90 customs officials, MRA officials, on the rules of origin here in Malawi. So this is component 3. Component 4, we are looking at the so-called phase 2 issues. So phase 1 of the AFCFTA negotiations, we are looking at trading services and trading goods. But then phase 2, we are moving now to what they're calling investment, competition policy, and digital trade, which I believe on digital trade, this is also something that MHub is actually interested in. So these investment, competition policy, and digital trade, these are what we are calling component 4 of our project. So we are supporting negotiations on this. So I think in February, Eslon, if you can correct me on this, we had a training, yes, February. No, capacity building workshop on investment. And then we're also supporting Malawi in trying to come up with a position paper to show our interest on investment so that when we are going to the negotiations, we can know as a country, what is our position? What are our interests, both offensive and defensive interests as a country? And then we have component 5, where we are looking at sustainability approaches. So the social, ecological, and economic implementation of the AFCFTA itself with the involvement of the private sector. So we are talking of SMEs, traders, women and young entrepreneurs, plus also the civil society. The next slide, please. So this is just a summary of the 2021 and 2022 activities here in Malawi, what we have achieved so far. So maybe I would just maybe single out one or 2. Yeah, so we supported 3 SMEs from Malawi, namely Nali, Perisha Agro Processing, and Tantwe Farms to attend the Intra-African Trade Fair in 2021 in Durban. And also we sensitized about 75 members of the CISANET, this is Civil Society Network, Agriculture Network, on the benefits of the AFCFTA. So focusing much on the agricultural sector. So this was done in 2021. The next slide, please. Now we are going now into the potential benefits of the AFCFTA for Malawi. The next slide, please. I think the previous speaker mentioned about connecting 1.2, 1.3, I think, give or take, 1.3 billion people across 55 countries with a combined gross domestic product valued at 2.5 to 3.4. I think the numbers are just, give or take, 3.4 trillion, 2.5, yeah. So this is a market. If you have a product, as of now, or you have a service and you're not exporting, your target market as of now in Malawi at most is 19 million. That's our population, 19 plus. Huh? But we're talking about 1.3 billion people. This is a market. We just have to position ourselves, because this is a market where we can tap into. We can export our products either to West Africa, East Africa, and also here in SADC, but then we need products that are of good quality that actually comply with international and also regional standards so that we can actually export. You know, we cannot export a substandard product. So we need products that actually do meet the international standards for us to tap into this market. Again, we're looking at reduction of non-tariff barriers, which are estimated to raise intra-African trade by between 50 and 132%, with GDP gains of about 1 and 4%. So when we are talking of non-tariff barriers, we are talking of issues to do with standards, regulations, and issues at our borders and whatnot. So a reduction in these non-tariff barriers, which comes about because of the AFCFTA, because the AFCFTA will help in reducing the non-tariff barriers. It will raise the intra-African trade fair. This will aid us, the business community, in trying to export more to other countries. But then the issue goes back to, is our product meeting the international standards where we can export? So the issue is about quality standards, meeting standards, and the same, I think it will increase the volume of intra-African trade. I think as of now, my colleague mentioned about 15 or 17%, but then the AFCFTA will ensure that the volume of intra-African trade is increased by 81% by 2035. The next slide, please. The AFCFTA is also expected to address gender inequality in Africa by increasing employment opportunities for women and helping to lower the gender wage gap on the continent. So certain sectors are expected to aid into this. So we are talking of tourism, financial, and also the IT sector. So these sectors are expected to address the gender inequality in Africa by increasing the employment, especially for women, and also helping to lower the gender wage gap on the continent. But also we are talking of export diversification and also increase employment opportunities and wages for unskilled workers. So the trickle-down effects of the AFCFTA will actually also aid in increasing the opportunities for unskilled workers. So this is something also that we need to take into account. Again, it will provide an opportunity for countries in the region to competitively integrate into the global economy. So as my colleague, the previous speaker mentioned, I think the AFCFTA will also aid into countries to integrate into the global economy. We are talking of global value chains. For example, let me take an example of a product, groundnuts, so to say. Yes, if as Malawi, we have groundnuts, we haven't added anything, we export it to Zambia, and then Zambia adds value to the groundnut. And then Zambia exports the product maybe to Botswana, and Botswana packages that groundnut. You see that we actually, that's more or less like a global value chain. So you are actually transforming the product from one area to the next. So it actually aids in trying to countries to benefit across that value chain. So these are the global value chains that we are talking about. So the AFCFTA will also ensure that will provide an opportunity to countries in the region to competitively integrate into the global economy. The next slide, please. So how can local entrepreneurs in Malawi benefit from the AFCFTA? Next slide, please. So Malawi has great potential in tourism. As a landlocked country, it also has capacity for transit to enable transportation among its neighbors. So two sectors here have been mentioned, tourism and transport. But we also have a competitive advantage in the agricultural sector. So these are some of the sectors where Malawi, we do have great potential. But then the issue goes back to our products of good quality. Issues to do with standards. We need to improve on our products or services. So these are issues that we also need to take into account. Micro, small, medium enterprises can benefit from greater access to new markets and the possibility to source raw materials from these markets. I think Ezra also mentioned about this. And a good example, textile and apparel, fashion. We can actually source materials from Ghana, Ethiopia, because of the AFCFTA, and add that into the products that we are already making. So this gives us access to new markets, first and foremost, where we can actually export our products, but we can also source raw materials from these markets. So also this is something that our local entrepreneurs here in Malawi can also look into. Again, increasing employment and investment opportunities, as well as technological development. We can learn from what our friends are doing because of the AFCFTA, issues to do with technological transfer and what have you, investment opportunities. These are opportunities where our local entrepreneurs can actually tap into. The next slide, please. New opportunities for joint ventures with foreign companies seeking reliable partners in Africa. I think the AFCFTA also provides this opportunity, but then as a business, we need to ask ourselves, are we registered? Are we keeping records? Because for an investor to come, you know, he will look at such kind of things. Is the business registered and whatnot? So new opportunities for joint ventures for foreign companies seeking reliable partners in Africa is also something that our local entrepreneurs here in Malawi can also tap into. New competition. I know our the private sector here, not only in Malawi, but other countries as well, especially least developed countries, they're a bit skeptical about the AFCFTA, issues to do with competition. No, we lose out. No, we cannot compete with products from Kenya, Morocco, Botswana. But then new competition triggers innovation and product differentiation. This is something that we need to have at the back of our heads. So the AFCFTA presents this opportunity for us to innovate and also to differentiate our products. Emerging opportunities for increased value addition across value chains. So maybe as a country, maybe we do export raw materials, you talk of groundnuts, soya, and what have you. But then we have an opportunity because of the AFCFTA to add value to those products for us to export finished products. So the AFCFTA actually gives us that opportunity. So as businesses, I think we really need to take advantage of the agreement itself. I know there are issues of lack of information, and I'm glad that the minister is here. Maybe at the end, you can also share details of how you can get some of the information to do with standards, certification, and whatnot. But these are some of the opportunities that the local entrepreneurs here in Malawi can actually tap into because of the AFCFTA. I think this is the last slide. Yeah, I thank you for your attention. Skomo.
Thank you, Chimwemwe, for that presentation. Now allow me to welcome my colleague, Nese, to welcome any questions from all of you, including our viewers out there.
Good evening. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Chimwemwe Mage and Mr. Ezron Chirambo, for the wonderful presentations. And I think this will help to bridge the gap, the information gap that is there amongst our business people in the country. So at this point, allow me to take questions. So since this is a hybrid event, we also have viewers online. Maybe we'll start with participants that are here physically, while Karen maybe looks at the questions that are coming up on the online platforms. So the floor is open for questions. If anyone has any questions for our two presenters this evening, then this is the time for you to ask your questions. Yeah.
Am I supposed to introduce myself?
Yes, please just introduce yourself and then you say your question.
My name is Jacqueline Banda. My question goes to Ministry of Tourism.
Of Trade.
Oh, sorry, Ministry of Trade. I wanted to know if you have specific platforms in districts, not just here in Lilongwe, but for those small entrepreneurs on district level. Because I had a scenario, I wanted the help from Minister of Tourism. I'm based in Mangochi. So I was supposed to go to Zambia for a certain function. So I wanted help from Minister of Tourism. I consulted a few people who's like, you have to go to Minister of Tourism, it's going to help you. When I went to Minister of Tourism, because I farm and also add value on my product, they advised me that no, you have to go to Minister of Trade. I'm sorry, Minister of Agriculture. When I went to Minister of Agriculture, they told me, no, you have to go to Minister of Tourism. Minister of Tourism was like, no, this issue, we can't help you. Maybe the person that I was dealing with, he works also with Minister of Tourism, was like, I can just refer you to a few people that they had a certain scenario, maybe they can help you. And at the end of the day, I failed to attend the function because I had no proper structure, like who's going to help me in this platform. So I wanted to know what platforms are there if someone wants a help on international trade.
Okay, thank you so much. The structures that we have is only government structures. The structure that we have as a ministry, which is a part of government, it's the government structures. At district level, we expect the district councils to also play their role in terms of information sharing regarding trade or even international trade. But sometimes they also, I know they've got challenges. However, I can only tell you that myself on daily basis, I receive questions from various districts or inquiries from various districts regarding inquiries that also they get from their people in those areas. So sometimes it's about a reception. If those people, they are really willing to help you, they'll communicate that with us. But if they just want to dismiss you, that could be the end. Because Ministry of Trade doesn't have officers in the district. You know about this decentralization or devolution of services, central government services. So we expect district council to be also up there. If anything, we do much of the sensitizations with the district, and most of the things that we do, they're actually backed by law. So if you're not getting adequate information at district level, it's really unfortunate, but I know that they cannot do. But what I can, for the sake of viewers and for those who who encounter your situation in future, that such kind of information, we have a trade portal, www.malawitradeportal.mw, where you can get all sorts of information regarding imports and exports and the requirements to import or export. Besides the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we also have got MITC, because the MITC, that is Malawi Investment Trade Center, is a government agency which is involved in dealing with investors as well as traders, particularly international traders. So they also have got an information portal. On those information portals or trade portals, there are also contact numbers, but also what I can say, buttons where you can inquire and get feedback instantly. This now comes to me to say, to also take the problem back to you. The trade portals were publicly advertised, but it seems like most people still don't know. Why? Maybe because we still have to keep talking about it. Even those who know, I think they're not much used to technology. You know, most of the information today is online. Even if you try to, okay, there's, even some of you, yet you're in business, you don't even know maybe ministries of government. Because if you can just Google Ministry of Trade, you get information, you get links, you get some information and contacts, you can contact us. Because for us to be in each and every district, that means we can employ thousands of people, and it may not be possible. That is why we rely on district councils, city councils, and municipalities also to up their game to be helping you on some of these things, because they know about what government platforms are there where information can be found free. I think I should stop here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chirambo. Any further questions? Yes, you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to first congratulate our two speakers. Those were great presentations, very eye-opening. Steve Macheso, I own a small company. I call it a small company, but with a big vision, obviously. It's called Stage Trading and Supply Limited. Try to fill supply needs of organizations. So if organizations want laptops, we try to run around, get them laptops. If they want medical reagents, we try to run around and get them medical reagents where they are. But my question, I'm very excited to hear about this Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but I want to get a broad understanding of where we are in terms of the implementation of it, both at continental level and at country level. There is a lot of policy work, regulation work that has to be done to operationalize it, obviously. So broad picture, where are we in terms of our preparation to fully implement this? For a country like Malawi, primarily I want to understand and get a picture of when do we have even a timeline to say, okay, by this day, we will be fully ready to take up opportunities of FCTA. So just kind of to understand where we really are continentally and as a country in terms of implementing this.
Is it related to him? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Ian Konje. My question is also related to his question. My question is, you mentioned the negotiations that are taking place in making sure that each and every country benefits from the free trade agreement. I wanted to find out, in terms of you find other countries are able to flourish because of policies such as subsidization, where even if the agreement does not benefit the country puts in initiatives to ensure that their products are able to compete. In the negotiations, is there a provision for Malawi, the Malawi government, to support our products through such subsidizations, either through either tax exemptions or assisting through development of exports? And that's the first thing. And the second thing is, I think when the agreement was first announced, as you said, Malawi was, I think, projected to be given about 4 years exemption so that it tries to boost its industrial capacity before it fully participates in the agreement itself. So in line with this question, is that still the arrangement? And based off of the implementation of the agreement, is that still going to take place, or things have changed as you are negotiating?
Yeah, I think these are policy issues. So,
Thank you so much, Mr. Konje, as well as Mr. Macheso. Regarding level of implementation, I should say I beamed the agreement there. there are three parts that are being negotiated. The first is trade in goods. Regarding trade in goods, is where you submit your offer to say on these goods, we remove duties. Okay, now the way duties are removed, the moment the agreement comes into force, normally there are timelines there. It's like a club. In the club, you may have the big boys and the small boys, for example. Now, in most cases, the more advanced countries, in most cases, they eliminate their duties faster than the, let's say, countries like Malawi, which are least developed. That is part of the agreement. However, it's not like 4 years. Let me combine also. It's not like 4 years. In most cases, they do it, let's say, in 5 years or 10 years. The big countries could be 5 years. The small countries could be 10 years. What happens is, let's say, for example, your taxes today, they are 15%. The duty, I mean, there is 15%, let's say, on something like this one. You're producing this one and say, in 5 years or 10 years, I'll remove this one. That means each and every year you have to remove small, up to the final year, then you reach 0. So for those with a 10-year period, that means they move much slower, smaller percentages up to 10 years. And when you reach 10 years, but sometimes you feel like your industries are still not ready, you can request for what we call a derogation. A derogation is more, it's like you are requesting for an extended period. Okay, maybe you can say maybe for another year or another year. This has been happening, let's say, for example, like within SADC. Most of the countries, they have been asking for a derogation for a particular sector. You see, that is allowed because these negotiations, these agreements, they're not necessarily punishment, but they're also not expecting you to have lame excuses. You have to prove it why you are asking for that kind of derogation. Having said that, let me come to the agreement itself. The structure, I said there's trade in goods, trade in services, and the investment protocol, which is also an agreement. That is an agreement on investment. Now, on trade in goods, most of the first round of negotiations, I should say most of the negotiations have already been completed. On trade in services, they started with 5 priority sectors. They thought those sectors will enhance Africa integration regarding trade. And these sectors are financial services, transport services, communication services, tourism services, and business services or professional services. Now, the negotiation for this sector, they're expected to end in June. We expect in June, if all goes well, the ministers of trade will adopt the technical negotiations that have been happening so far. And normally, when the ministers of trade, normally there's sometimes a council. Once they are approved under the council, that means those things they come into force. Because the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, as it is, 2/3 of the member states have already ratified. That is why it is in force since January last year. So any agreement that has been agreed, ratified, or adopted by the council, that means automatically it has to come into force, because the FCTA already is into force. Now, the implementation is all those who have ratified are supposed to be implemented right away. That is what is expected. However, as you have said, sometimes some sectors are struggling. Maybe they need to be subsidized, or they need some support from government to be ready for competition. But in most cases, it's not sometimes like that. For sectors which show potential, normally they will exclude those sectors from competition. You see? That is why we have what we call sensitive products or services which are not ready for competition yet will not open up for those areas. And for the products, we exclude them from competition. So that is how it is. Countries have got a right to keep some products or some industries from competition. And in most cases, those industries, we call them maybe infant industries, for the young industries. Or maybe, there could be several reasons, but countries have got a right to exclude some of these countries. Unless maybe I've forgotten something, my colleague, who is also an international trade expert, can come in.
Yeah, maybe just to add that as of now, as of May, we have about 43 ratifications. Yeah.
Yeah, we have, as I said, in fact, Malawi itself ratified in December last year, and the countries are still ratifying. But within the region, we have still countries that haven't yet ratified. I think what comes to my mind is should be Botswana and Tanzania. But sometimes
Not Tanzania, Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. Yeah, the reason you may say, why are they not ratifying? It's about the processes. Our government system have got different ways of undertaking ratifications. So the processes differ, and that process sometimes can delay you. The decision might have made, but because these are also done up to political level, so sometimes the processes may delay. Some have to go to parliament first. If the parliament hasn't have time to read about it, that means it may delay. Our system is different, of course. Yeah.
Anyone else with further questions before we go to our online viewers? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Chigomezio Gondwe. I'm here representing two organizations. One is Women Investment Cooperative, and it's a membership-based organization with over 700 women entrepreneurs. And I'm also representing the COMESA Federation of Women in Business, the Malawi chapter. Thank you. Although I caught the tail end of the presentations, I would love to have a conversation with you, Mr. Chirambo, afterwards to catch up. But it's very interesting what I heard at the tail end. A few things came to mind. You, Mr. Mwase, in your presentation, there was a slide where you spoke about export diversification and industrialization, and you very rightly emphasized the fact that innovation is very key, to us becoming competitive, to improving our competitive advantage. From a policy perspective, however, and this is the first part of what I would like to engage with you on. When we look at our industrial policy in Malawi, it's outdated. It hasn't been updated for quite some time. And then when you look at the science, technology, and innovation policy as well, it hasn't been updated since 2003. So we're talking about regional integration, trade integration, and there are all these amazing initiatives and efforts that you are making on the ground. But when you start implementing, it's the same outdated policies that have to be referred to. How are you marrying these? Because you spoke about gender inequality. And when we look at these policies, they do not address issues of gender equality. And when you talk about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, there's a very strong component of the participation of women in trade, in interregional trade. So how are you actually going to make this work? Because our policies are not gender sensitive. The key policies, the industrial policy and the innovation policy. And what's on the ground is a bit different. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, you spoke about the fact that one of the benefits of AFTA for Malawi is the technology transfer, investment opportunities, and so on. When you talk about investment opportunities, what I got was the fact that Malawi has got a lot to offer for foreign investors to come and invest in our country. I'm wondering what opportunities exist for Malawian companies to invest in other African countries. If we're talking about industrialization, we cannot survive on our own. We need to be able to access those new markets, not just through trading, but by setting up infrastructure in foreign markets. So how is that addressed within the component of what you've presented and the after agreement, and what mechanisms are in place to facilitate that? Thank you.
Yeah, maybe let me start with the last question, and then maybe my colleague can handle maybe the first question. Yeah, so I think if we can single out maybe some sectors, especially financial services and also maybe tourism, I think Malawi has the potential to actually establish in trading services what we call commercial places. We can have maybe a bank being established, so to say, maybe in Tanzania or Zambia. So I think we have the capacity, and the AFCFT actually presents that opportunity for our maybe banks, you talk of insurance, the whole financial sector. I think we have the potential to do that. And also the tourism sector, I think we can talk of Sunbed. I think they have the capacity to actually establish themselves maybe in Tanzania or so to say in Zambia. So I think the AFCFTA actually presents that opportunity in order for to have that free flow of capital, so to say. So I think these two sectors, tourism and financial services, I think we have the potential to do that. Also, you are from Comfweb. One of the organizations that you're actually representing. Yeah, as GIZ, we are actually in contact with Comfweb. We have what we call the ITC She Trades Initiative. And now we have just, we have a proposal on that. So I think going forward, it's also something that we need to also engage more so that we can actually discuss on what is in the proposal. The ministry is also involved, MCCI, MITC. So these are opportunities that maybe if we can sit down and try to discuss about these issues, I think we can come up with solutions, so to say. But with regards to the policy issue, I think in my capacity, I cannot speak on behalf of the ministry or the ministry responsible for such kind of changes with regards to the policy. So maybe I'll hand it over to.
Okay, thank you, Chimwemwe. And thank you, and congratulations, by the way. I understand you have achieved a wonderful objective that you are working on. She has attained a master MBA on a global watch. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, congratulations. That's not easy. Maybe just to start from where he stopped, the She Trades is an ITC initiative where they want to promote women across about 3 million women, is it? Across the world, the universe, to expose your products, your services on the market internationally. And Malawi is one of the countries that have, it's one of the countries that will be participating in those initiatives. Like currently we are actually, and if you have got some ideas to actually share with us what Malawi should do to be part of the activities that can promote women in business. Also in the same, we have in many times as Minister of Trade tried to mainstream trade issues into the system. Because once we do trade mainstreaming, then the issues of gender might be solved. Now coming to policy matters, I should say that we have a national industrial policy as well as a national trade policy. Both of these policies were launched in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, if not 2018, and they are still active. And the matters of gender are actually part of the policies, but how to implement sometimes is another thing. That is why we need to be interacting with you, because we don't have to dictate what has to be happening on the ground, but associations, groups should also be advising the ministry or other ministries on what they should do. When it comes to the national industrial policy, it's actually extracted from the broader Africa industrial strategy, where issues of also gender mainstreaming are also captured, and issues of how best we can do develop industrialization is also captured, because Africa is part of, Malawi is part of Africa. Maybe you hear about the Agenda 2063, and Malawi was also developed, Malawi 2063, which is also an extract from that, but domesticated to suit our own needs. So, and since 2063 is too far, we also have got interim 10-year plans, okay? Which we call it MIP. You see, which also captured all these other things which are implementing at the moment. But in case you have read them and you see some shortfalls, you can also come to us. We can still also patch them up to make sure that on the ground, we also have activities that are sorting out your challenges. We have some archaic laws, but regarding trade, most of our laws are not archaic. Only that the trade is dynamic, and the trade regulations or framework requires frequent adjustments. Yeah. So that is what I can say for now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chirambo and Mr. Mwage. Do we have any further questions here before we go to our online viewers? I guess not. Okay, so from our online viewers, we've got a few questions. I'll start with Yamikani Jimsole. He's got 3 questions. They are related. And basically, he's looking for answers in terms of the mining sector. I would like to know if there are any opportunities in the mining sector. That's the first question. The second question is to do with the involvement of the mining sector in the trade industry at large. He thinks the mining sector is neglected, and he's asking why the mining sector is neglected. And the other one is basically on how entrepreneurs in the mining sector can access funding. So this goes to the Ministry of Trade as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is not necessarily under Ministry of Trade, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But I will answer according to what I also know as a person, not now official from Ministry of Trade. What I know is that the mining industry has come up with new laws. We've got a very new law on mining, the Mining Act. And within that act, what I know is that they encourage small-scale mining. They recognize small-scale mining, and they would like to encourage, they're actually encouraging small-scale mining. However, they don't want they want it to be formal. You should get a license from Ministry of Mining to participate in mining. Malawi seems has got a huge potential when it comes to mining. And I think that will be one way Malawi will first diversify from agriculture, which is also facing challenges of climate change. Now, even the Ministry of Mining, in those new laws, they're actually forming a company. And this company will be actually a Malawi company, but also doing mining as well itself. When it comes to funding, the question of funding, I think, is cross-cutting. Each and every sector, whether it's in mining whether it's in tomato sauce, whether it's in poultry, they want funding. Do you know why? The banking sector doesn't solve the problems of MSMEs. They don't see it like a lucrative market. When you sometimes interact with the banking sector, main reason is, I think, it's lack of trust. Some people got loans from banks, they never paid back. And you know what happens when you get a loan and you don't pay back? Sometimes those banks, they fire the people who facilitated you a loan. So people sometimes they want to secure their jobs. However, I should say that regardless of mining, but as government has got to support, financial support in one way or the other, which is not also, not we can say it doesn't address everyone. Like you hear about the NIF, but you know, people say, some people get money from the NIF, they stop doing business, they just enjoy that money. You see what I mean? Because to them, we see like they've achieved their life goals. Yeah? In a business, maybe you make 20,000 per day, and then the NIF gives you 5 million. You think you're done, you have achieved your goal. So because of few people who are not returning back loan, they don't pay back loans, or they're delinquent in one way or the other, they also affect the masses who really deserve those loans. So I think our country need to change mindset. Let the financial institution trust us. Because even if you have got cheap loans, if you don't pay back, they can't give us. Even if maybe you borrow from your uncles, your mother, your father, you have to pay back because you've borrowed. But some, they just say, it's my dad's money. They don't pay back. So it's a common problem, but I'm sure government is addressing it. Maybe they're thinking of forming a development bank, but sometimes development bank will be for big funding, financing. Banks here, they have got money to give us, but they want a collateral. Now the problem is, how can we get that collateral? So as a person, I can advise you, one way it's difficult to go as an individual, but if you go as a group, they think someone sometimes will be trusted because we're in groups. But when we're individuals, we easily disappear. So let's move in groups and we'll get some support. Let's improve our business plans. The one I was talking about, the pitch to banks. When they ask you, give us this, give them. They'll give you money. For example, I recently got a loan from a bank because they trusted me. And if I don't pay back, I will also make you, most of you, not to get your money back. So that is what I can say. But the issue is collateral is very difficult for us because we are coming from, most of us, poor background, but with bright ideas. So we need intervention there, but it's difficult. So financing is a difficult topic. We can't really answer it here.
Thank you, Mr. Chirambo. Mr. Magi, do you have anything to add? No?
Yeah, maybe just to add that in order for us to take advantage of the FCFT, I think we need to be organized. One way to do that is to join associations. You talk of NABIWI, you talk of MCCCI. If we are organized, I think we can tap into the opportunities that the FCFTA presents itself, plus also the issues to do with loans and whatnot. So let us organize ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that addition. And from our viewers online, thank you very much for the questions. But in the interest of time, we're going to get one more question from Brian Mark Sambo, who has a question for the Ministry of Trade. Basically, he's asking on how he can remain competitive despite him being a business that depends on raw materials that are imported from outside the country. How can he be competitive when in regards to the products that are being manufactured in other countries, while his business mainly relies on imports, and it's still difficult for him to remain competitive in terms of his pricing?
Competitiveness is a process. For one business to be competitive is a process. Number one is to cut costs on production. Whatever you are producing, make sure that you are efficient. Don't waste. When you say efficient, you're not wasteful. Sometimes we may say, okay, I do everything. I'm not really wasteful. I don't waste anything. Then study your business carefully. Like with the FTA we were talking about, some of these raw materials, maybe they come from sources which are not having preference treatment when they come to Malawi. With the African Continental Free Trade Area, that means everything within Africa, particularly those the 90%, within the 90% bracket, will be coming in duty-free in a few years' time. Not starting from day one, but at least in a few years' time, they'll be duty-free. That is the one item. Second item, I should say that when you are in manufacturing, and I remember your question about how to incentivize local investors, we skipped that one. When you are in manufacturing and you get your raw materials from another country, here, when you have listed your products, those raw materials that you are importing with MRA, when they come into the country, they will give you are subject to what we call an incentive known as industrial rebate scheme, which means the duties, the tax that you pay there, they refund you. So that also lowers your costs. However, with myself having experience with most of people in MSME sector, I think most of the packaging, the beautiful packaging that you see on the market, sometimes they're not made locally. I have one company which imports from Zambia, the other company imports from South Africa, the other company imports from China, just package. Okay, let's say, for example, you have produced tomato puree, okay, which maybe a meal is very cheap, but it can be very expensive because of packaging materials. So we are looking into those gaps. We hope maybe we will find a way to bridge the gaps when it comes to packaging. Within Malawi, we have got a packaging company that are also producing nice packaging materials, but they are so much tied to big companies that must order, and they ignore those who order in small quantities because they say they use a mold. So they can't make a mold for you only because you order in small quantities. So maybe also in trying to come together, teaming up, you can also be mass ordering, even though you are small business, but in groups, you must order so that you can also help to be competitive. Sometimes it's a pricing strategy. I came across one company which had a product which production cost was about 4,000, but their selling price was 100% more, like 8,000. Does it make sense? So pricing strategy also is another issue. I think we need to be also discussing these things. But you have to make a profit, but produce more to make a profit. So that is what I can advise as of now. But if it's a question of taxes that you think are hindering your business, then you can come to us. We can discuss that for next tax reviews. Maybe recommendation can be shared, and the Minister of Finance always will go around making consultation on people to provide input, and those are the opportunities. You can remove those taxes, or you can plead, or you can lobby for such taxes to be reduced.
Okay, thank you very much for that. It's clear that people are interested to know more about what's happening with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, but we can only discuss so much at any given point. And it's our mandate as a growth accelerator to continue to have these discussions with our entrepreneurs as well as our colleagues in the government and the ministries as well. So at this point, I would like to thank everyone for asking these questions and being so interactive with our speakers tonight. And to our viewers online, thank you very much for your questions. And at this point, I would like to take it back to Karen to proceed with the program. Thank you.
A round of applause again for the speakers. Okay, now we have officially come to the end of the program. So now allow me to welcome Ms. Oganive, who will give the closing remarks. And just a reminder, I hope every one of us signed in through the signing sheets at the door, because actually we might want to, some of us might want the presentations. So the only way we can share with you is if we have your contact details, your email addresses. So make sure before you leave, you push your email addresses down. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Just one more round of applause for our speakers, please. We'd like to thank you. Clearly, the 1 hour we had allocated was way too short for this particular topic, as we can see the interest that has been building up. Now, as part of, on behalf of the partners on the program, our principal partners, that's KFW and UNDP, as well as co-implementing partners, that's MHub and Growth Africa, working together on the Growth Accelerator. We continue to do these ecosystem events to encourage more participation and drive to better Malawi through entrepreneurship. And it's through conversations that we have here, also and inputs from you, our entrepreneurs, those, whether you're on the Growth Accelerator program or not, or intend to get onto the Growth Accelerator or not in future, that we continue to provide you with topical areas that are of interest. And I think as time continues to go on, we will continually engage both with the Ministry of Trade as well as GIZ to continue to provide opportunities for you to learn more, not only about the free trade area, but opportunities and just preparing yourselves and working up within groups and associations that will allow you to engage more with the ministry. You know, one of the things that we do often see is a disconnect. So we always try to provide a voice for the entrepreneurs to engage with the right people within these particular sectors, and they can then provide you with the inputs that you need. It's not going to be an easy journey. I think we can all agree that it's going to be a tough one, especially because Malawi is starting off on such a back foot, but we have love for this country and we have drive to continue to push forward in terms of our entrepreneurship. And it's true that I want to thank our speakers for affording us your time to be able to talk on this particular topic. I'd also like to thank all of the entrepreneurs that are here now and those that are engaging with us on our online platforms for participating. And we hope that you'll continue to share information and join us on other ecosystem events that we will continue to engage with you. But other than that, we wish you a very good evening and a very good start to the weekend, since the weekend is coming up. We wish you good night.